It was a warm, sunny day in October. That day, Colin, Steve, Frank, and Chad would all meet at my house before departing on an adventure in the woods. You may be wondering why we were going to the woods that day. I don't really know. We weren't going hiking or anything, rather, just some random patches of trees in my neighborhood. But I'll tell you what, we were going to build a tree fort. Not just any tree fort though, like a big one. One that we could practically live in if it weren't for the part about having no AC, electricity, or running water and whatnot. So around 9 a.m., Colin, Chad, Steve, and Frank all met at my place.
"What's up, bro?"
said Chad.
"Yo, man, this tree fort gonna be lit,"
replied Steve. Yep, let's get going so we can have all day to build, I said. We did just that. We got going and cut through the construction site before getting along the main road. The plan would be to build our tree fort right along Vanderbilt Creek in the woods.
"Nick,"
said Frank. Yeah, Frank, I replied.
"Can we make an extra comfy bed?"
He asked.
"Of course we can, bros. We're gonna need this extra comfy bed for when I come around, bro, relaxing in style."
Alright, whatever you guys say. And so we continued walking. However, as soon as we got off of the main road and into the woods, we noticed something quite strange when we looked up into the tree canopy, only to see a big parachute, bright neon orange in color too. The parachute literally blocked out the entire sun. It was like 50 feet in length. "The fuck is this?" Colin questioned. "I have no idea. I think it's like a hot air balloon that must have crashed or something." "I mean, that's impossible. If a hot air balloon crashed, there'd be like remnants of the actual basket," I replied.
"Yeah, man, maybe just some homeless motherfucker trying to make camp,"
Steve pitched.
"Yo, Steve, chill up now. Not everyone has the same blessings we have. I say that Nick man's right, though. We should always be non-judgmental. But this does give me a bro idea."
"And that is?" Colin questioned.
"I say we scavenge its parachute and use it in our fort. It would make an extra good roof."
I had to admit it, but Chad was actually right. That was genius. Not only would it cover us with a good protection for shelter, but it'd make it rainproof and windproof too. "Chad, you're a genius," said Colin.
"Well, you know, bro, always good to stay humble and all, but sometimes the gains manifest themselves into the mind as well."
"Alright, well, let's get to work then," I said. We looked around and found the nice flat spot along Vanderbilt Creek. It was October, like I mentioned, so the super high, bushy grass had started to wear off a bit, clearing out the undergrowth, making it easier for us to work. Colin and I brought our backpacks with saws, axes, knives, and some rope and tarps to work with. Lots of building equipment. Steve, Frank, and Chad, though, were way more underprepared than we were. Steve had brought a dingy drawstring bag with a bunch of snacks and sodas. Frank brought a loungy camp chair, along with a Sprite and a fishing rod. Chad brought his protein shake, his blender, and some Think brand protein bars.
"I think that this is the right choice,"
he jokingly said as he unwrapped the birthday cake flavor. And so we continued building. The fort was coming along surprisingly well, though really only Colin and I were the ones making progress. Steve was busy roasting Buzzman, and Buzzman himself, aka Frank, was just lounging around eating donuts.
"Heh, man can't stop being a fat ass." "Yeah, Steve, technically these donuts actually are healthy. These donuts are whole grains," said Frank. "Well, I think I may have to agree with Frankie on this one," said Chad. "My protein shake also happens to be whole grain, and whole grains are the perfect fuel to kick off the biceps and the pecs for bulking season this winter."
And so Frank and Chad did the little cheers motion with Chad's protein shake and Frank's donut.
"Cheers to the fort, bros."
Everything was going well. We're all having a good time on their relaxing autumn day. The fall foliage is out in full, and the trees glazed with bright neon yellow. However, it wasn't until 30 minutes later that the day would turn crazy. "Yo, what's that?" Colin pointed out, pointing across to the other end of Vanderbilt Creek, near the other neighborhood. "What do you mean?" I replied. We looked over the creek and saw something that we would never forget. There was a storm drain over there that was on one of the cliffs, and on the other side of that storm drain, or I should say kind of in the storm drain, was a very chubby figure wearing a cloak. no other than Herbert Ernie himself. I could tell because the triple chin and potbelly were accentuated all the more due to the cloak. Somehow they were. You could see his cheesy smile growing eerily in the darkness of the storm drain.
What are you fellas doing with my foot?
Your fort, I said. Herbert, stop this nonsense. What the fuck are you doing here? I said.
No, boys. Just chilling.
Just chilling. Herbert, no. Leave now, or I'm calling the cops, said Colin. But Herbert decided to take some action. He ripped off the cloak, revealing nothing but a Speedo, the tight kind, that swimmers like to wear. Very fruity. He then decided to do some stretches before diving off of the storm drain and then into the Banderville Creek. He swam Olympic style straight across the water and landed in the crab pose right in front of our base camp.
Seems like a nice day for base camp, doesn't it, boys?
Herbert inquired.
I knew it. This foot is a brilliant idea. To make the perfect addition, take along with you, boys.
No, Herbert. All you're going to do is ruin everything. Not only will you ruin our fort, you're also going to ruin our day as well.
You don't worry, boys. I happen to be a Mr. Architect. My name is Engineer Ernie, and it is my sole honor and duty to make sure that this fort stands properly in all its glory and fame,
Herbert declared. Okay, that's it. I'm calling the cops. I got on my phone and dialed 911. Though, unfortunately, being this deep in the woods, there was no cell signal. Oh no, what are we going to do now? Said Colin. Oh, fuck up. We gotta do something, I said. Herbert, okay, how about this? If you leave us alone for the rest of the day, tomorrow, we'll take you out for ice cream at Jimmy Cone, I said.
Too late for that, boys. I already got a free coupon. In fact, I'll be treating you boys to ice cream after the fort is complete today,
said Herbert. Shit, plan failed.
No worry, bro. I think I have a plan that'll work out for all of us,
Chad smoothly suggested. Chad then took out his blender and whipped himself up another protein shake. He chugged it down. Chad, how the fuck is that gonna work for all of us?
Well, bro, the best way to improve a community or a group of people is to start by improving oneself.
Chad, you dumbass. Your protein shake only consists of ice cream, chocolate sprinkles, and sugar, I said.
Bro, can't get too boring with our diet now. We don't want to be redundant, that would be bros.
Oh, fuck you, bitch, I said. Okay, Herbert, leave now, or I'm gonna beat your ass, I said.
That's right, bitch. I'll beat your ass,
said Steve.
I think it is a pretty beautiful German rink,
said Herbert, his cheesy smile growing even wider and cheesier. Now, we all knew that Herbert was obsessed with Imperial Germany back in the 30s, and this proved it. Herbert then did the unimaginable. He had already made good progress in the fort, or we did, my bad, and had multiple walls and platforms already set up. That was when Herbert decided to start spinning. He pivoted his toes in the ground and started spinning like one of those Beyblades. He spun so fast that we couldn't even see his arms move. He was just all one big whirl. He stuck his arms out like blades. He then started slowly moving in the course towards our fort. Not in a straight line, though, more like a slow, gradual squiggle.
Fee, fa, foo, whoopee, jimmy,
he exclaimed as he destroyed our fort all in one swift motion.
How do you like that one, neighbors? Now, let's hit Jimmy Cone.
Run! I exclaimed. Herbert had already ruined the day. I couldn't stick around any longer. We had to get home before things escalated further in the wrong direction, if you know what I mean. We all took off. Unfortunately, Banderville Creek was located in a deep, steep hollow, and the cliffs are super treacherous. Though Colin, Steve, and I really had no trouble getting up. Frank and Chad, on the other hand, they were lacking.
Whoop!
Exclaimed Frank, who was quite out of shape. We figured that they'd be fine, though, because Herbert was theoretically even slower than them. No, I said theoretically, but, as usual, Herbert had other plans. Herbert reached into his pants and Speedo, pulling out some extra boots. They had aluminum springs on the bottom, which he used to jump 50 feet in the air.
Get jumped with Architect Ernie!
Herbert exclaimed. We continued running, leaving Chad and Frank in the dust. And I guess that's what they get for not helping out on the fort anyway. And so we got home and locked ourselves in the basement, eventually falling asleep from pure exhaustion. We woke up a little later and found Herbert and Ernie outside in the driveway, being arrested by the police. Oh shit, Frank and Chad were chilling with us too, though they were traumatized from what had happened. They looked like they had seen some shit that we were glad we missed out on. Though we were all traumatized to a degree, we just all went home and called it a day. That then concludes the Tree Fort disaster.